to double your profit with a small pricing change. So you don't need to do massive price increases on your projects. It's such a simple strategy. And as mentioned before, it almost rarely ever highly affects your closing ratios. If you've done what I've mentioned before with perception, with trust, with social proof, you build up those things and you can easily bump up your pricing 5, 10, even 15 to 20%. I've seen it. I've done it with many contractors and in my own business. It is the easiest, quickest, best way to be able to make sure you're generating enough profit to scale your business, to make yourself comfortable without stressing about finances or payroll and all that kind of stuff. So when you raise your price by 10%, that's only like a 10% increase in revenue. So that's not huge, right? You went from $1 million to $1.1 million in revenue. But when you look at it properly at the bottom line, that is a doubling of your profit. If you only had a 10% profit margin before, you raise your prices by 10%, which you need to do 11% markup to 10% margin. It's such an easy way to improve your profits, and nobody does this on a consistent basis. You should be regularly increasing your prices and figuring out where that sweet spot is to make yourself a lot of profit. Weed out the low paying and the clients that aren't willing to pay for a premium builder who has quality, who has high trust, all of these different things. Let me ask you this. What would twice the cash in your pocket mean for you? Sure, that would mean a little bit less stress, probably an extra vacation, maybe buy that new toy, boat, dirt bike, whatever it is. And it's not rocket science. If you're selling a project, it's a $500,000 project, you have 10% profit margins, which a lot of builders aren't even making 10% profit margins. I've seen typically they're like 5, maybe 10%. $500,000 project, you're only making $50,000 of profit is very typical for most builders. But if you can raise your prices by an extra 10% markup, then you go in from a $500,000 project to a $550,000 project, increased your markup by 10%, that's another $50,000 of profit. You've essentially doubled your profits. That's where it starts to become pretty amazing, because now you don't need a gigantic revenues to be making hundreds of thousands of dollars per year in your construction business. Now, I know what you might be saying is that's easy to say, but not so easy to do. But I've just outlined in the previous principles all the different ways that you can increase your profit margins and your pricing by building your brand, positioning yourself well, building those trust factors, and being very niched and very specific with your unique selling proposition. All of these lead to incremental increases in the value perception of your company and the amount of money that you can charge. Just knowing these 5 principles that I've mentioned so far is not enough, because the next one is the backbone of a construction business's growth,